How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully, everyone is having a lovely day. The Cincinnati Bengals four-game heater right now, knocking off the Seahawks, knocking off the 49ers, knocking off the Buffalo Bills, and it is just about time as potentially a biased Bengals fan. Try to put the bias aside, but hey, you're always going to be a little bit of a homer. Always a little bit. I don't care who you think you are. If it's your favorite team, you always got a little. Okay, that's a lie. I don't know. Some people might go to separate the bias. Nonetheless, but it really started to question things here with the Cincinnati Bengals. You look at the last 2 years, it is very arguable. Very arguable. Especially the year against the Rams where the Bengals had no offensive line and Burrow was getting obliterated. He literally needed half a second hit Chase on a wide open pass. A lot of people remember that to win the Super Bowl. If the Bengals didn't lose 3 offensive starters last season, probably could have made a run and had a chance to win yet another Super Bowl. So this season comes around, you bring in another offensive lineman. You bring in Orlando Brown Jr. You have an offensive line that is healthy again. This offensive line is going to be the best it's ever been under Joe Burrow. And you start to question, what is it? Aside from injuries, what is possibly out there to stop the Cincinnati Bengals from winning the Super Bowl this year? You knock off the Buffalo Bills. You knock off the San Francisco 49ers, 2 teams who you felt like, hey, there's some defenses right there. If there's some defenses that can slow down this Bengals team, there they are. It didn't seem like they had a problem going through either one of them. If those teams that could wreak havoc on this offensive line that could make Joe Burrow's life horrible back there. 2 years ago, they would have. 2 years ago, they would have. They would have had 6 sacks. This year, each team had 3 sacks, which, hey, it happens. 3 sacks still. You'd like to get that number down. But if you look at the Bengals offensive line going against up against those defensive fronts, those teams top of the league and sacking opposing teams' quarterbacks, you say, hey, Bengals gave up only 3. And it didn't feel like every time Joe Burrow dropped back, he was getting killed. I think that's what's more to it. There's more than just a number to it. In years past, Burrow could have got sacked 3 times, but he was getting hit and they near every drop back. They didn't feel like that in those 3 sacks in those games. It felt like the offensive line was controlling, or at least for the enough containing the pass rush and giving Burrow time to throw the football. And we've seen what happened. Joe Burrow, by the way, in the last 4 games, doing something only one other quarterback said in the history of the NFL, throwing for over 75% completion percentage over those 4 games. And boy, has he been hot. 4-game win streak, 75% completion percentage, tied for the league or better in touchdowns, completion percentage, wins, QBR. Oh, he's been good. He's been about as good as you can possibly be. Meanwhile, you flip it over to the Bengals defense. What's changed? You lost a couple safeties, but you still have what you need, and that's the brains of the operation. And you're still bringing some of these young guys out there, some young, quick guys. You're seeing Cam Taylor-Britt come up. I mean, you could argue it is not even. I don't know if it is an argument. I loved what Eli Apple did for this Bengals team, but I mean, there's an argument the secondary is better. You got to look past the safety play, but you look at the DB play. It's better. Trey Hendrickson playing at his best again. They still got a very good linebacking corps. And again, you bring Lou Anarumo in here, who's found a way in these past couple years to game plan to slow down, maybe not completely shut down, but to slow down Patrick Mahomes, to slow down Josh Allen. What is supposedly and arguably 2 of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league. And the Bengals have found a way to routinely shut both of them down and find a way to keep their offense in the games and to find a way to win football games. The Bengals on a 6-game win streak in prime time in Paycor Stadium. Joe Burrow seems to be the only quarterback in the league. Well, I wouldn't say the only quarterback, but the quarterback right now in the league that does not lose the big games. Night in and night out, the Bengals backs against the wall. We ain't supposed to win this one. You ain't supposed to win this one. You got to win this one. And this football team, led by Joe Burrow, led by this defense, finds ways to come out on top of every one of those big games. And until a team can slow the Cincinnati Bengals down when they are healthy, when they are rolling in those big games, how can you possibly look back and say, hey, who's going to beat them? What reason do we have? I think you look at the schedule the rest of the season and say, hey, you got the Browns and the Ravens. That's the 2 scariest teams on the schedule. That's 2 scariest teams on the schedule every year. The Bengals do not have an answer for a healthy Lamar, and they don't have an answer for that Browns defense. Finally, they did get that chip off their shoulder last season. What happened when they do it? When it was playing good football, when it was on that win streak. Could we see it again this season? Absolutely. We've seen it the year before when Burrow threw for 900 against the Ravens. When the Bengals get rolling, I think even those teams have a hard time slowing it down. I think that's going to tell it all. Bengals got to beat the Ravens. They got to beat the Browns. They beat those 2 teams. I don't think there's anything slowing them down. If they can find a way, and what is seemingly a really winnable AFC still this season, as nobody's really running out the front runner dominant team in the AFC. There's a lot of good football teams, but it doesn't feel like anybody's untouchable right now. which means the Bengals still have a chance to possibly get the number 1 seed. The Bengals still have a chance to at least get a number 2 seed. The Ravens are going to lose some football games. That's going to be the difficult part for the Bengals, is they're going to see the Ravens lose some football games. Besides that, though, Bengals can get some home field advantage. A couple of games in the playoffs, they can make some serious noise. And my confidence might be a little high, might be a little bit of an overreaction right now these past couple weeks. But one thing we've learned about the Bengals, when they get hot, when Joe Burrow's playing well, when this team's healthy, and not to mention, we talked about Joe Burrow, we talked about this offensive line. Yeah, you look at the combinations around the league. Josh Allen's got a lot of talent around him. Well, I mean, besides that, well, Jalen Hurts does too, but I don't think Jalen Hurts is in the same league as Joe Burrow passing-wise. He can do a heck of a lot with his legs. He's got a heck of an offensive line, but I don't think he's in the same league. I think there's a big gap between Mahomes, Burrow. You want to throw Allen? I think there's a big gap after those guys from a pure passing standpoint. Nonetheless, to think about the quarterbacks in the league, I mean, the Burrow's got one of the best weapon groups or best skill position groups out there. And you got to do that against this defense, and now an improved offensive line against with Joe Burrow. I mean, it's very difficult to match up with this Bengals football team right now if you're anybody in the league. It feels like they can beat you in a lot of phases. You got a kicker that can nail them from 60. I really like what the Bengals have to offer right now. And I think what might be just as impressive, again, we'll go back to talking about Lou Anarumo, how we're feeling halfway through the season with this Cincinnati Bengals team is they don't have what we've seen in the past. Chris Jones, the closer, Von Miller, Brian Von Miller, the closer, the trenches in Philly that can just control the football game. San Francisco with Bosa. You got these teams with these dominant pass rushers that can close out football games. Now, Trey Hendrickson is a really good football player, but it doesn't feel like the Bengals have that kind of lights out closer on defense, and they have found ways to work with that. They have a scheme that works just so well in containing opposing teams' quarterback, where they don't depend on a pass rush. It definitely helps, but they found ways to drop 8 and not get a pass rush on these good quarterbacks, and to find ways to slow them down, find ways to force the field goals, find ways to force them to punt, and that is scary coming playoffs. And I really like the direction the Bengals are going here. Love to hear you guys' thoughts. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see you next time.